Go to videos. Hold on a sec, guys.
Oh, we're live now. We're live.
Are we? Okay, great.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Something happened. You freed up some space.
Yeah, good. Okay, that's fine.
Hello,
So listen, so this isn't going to. Oh, Jen, maybe you could delete an old recording, and this might download, and we can get it out as a podcast.
Sorry, Jen. So much mess. We've run out of memory. We're out of memory.
Jen is our producer, and either has stormed off in a huff or is off to do that. Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you all. First of all, just a quick word to say. Terrible, awful news this morning that Alison Bailey is apparently hospitalized after. Did you not know this, Artie?
I did.
It's morning here.
After collapsing this morning, like I would imagine that's what a 400,000 quid bill does to you. Helen's gone as well now.
Oh no.
I know that we're all thinking of her here, and I hope she's okay. Oh God, I just couldn't believe it when I heard it. I've seen some disgusting messages, of course, but of course they always will do that. And Stonewall's response. Did you see Stonewall? What Stonewall did, Helen?
I did. Somebody said, they're just trolling now, and it did seem to me that this is, there's trolling and there's trolling. Was it celebrating Black lesbians for lesbian?
Celebrating,
week of visibility.
Not a word honestly, about Alison. Not a word about
nothing.
Her collapsing, but a generic thing about celebrating Black lesbians on Lesbian Visibility Day.
And to anybody who doesn't follow Twitter, this is following in a week where the Queen, J.K. Rowling, posted an image of Alison Bailey marching in a gay pride, a lesbian march in the early 90s, to which Linda Riley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the head of Stonewall seized upon that tweet as that was an act of hate or something, which was astonishing. This is a Black lesbian.
It was astonishing.
Activist who is now a barrister and works for underprivileged people and is just an extraordinary human being across the board. And that, remember, Stonewall covertly tried to have this woman fired because she had opinions that they didn't like. A gay rights organization now works to get gay people kicked out of their jobs if they're the wrong kind of gay. This is the world we're living in. So, this is the context of all of that. This week has been extraordinary. I think it's peaking gays again. It's peaking gays and lesbians to see that the premier gay rights organization in the United Kingdom works to destroy the lives of gays and lesbians, especially if you're a Black lesbian who happens to be a feminist, out with you. Yeah,
that's the very worst, because if you're at the bottom of the oppression, if you're at the top of the oppression pyramid, you are a triple threat to organizations like Stonewall, who like to claim that they're fighting they're anti-racism, that they're anti-transphobia and anti-homophobia, whereas of course they are all these things because they attack women like Alison all the time. They try and get them fired from their jobs.
It is, it is the most extraordinary sport. It's an extraordinary spectacle, isn't it? As somebody was saying, 2022, everyone.
Yeah,
I know we've asked so many times, how did we get here? I mean, I know we've seen it unfold, but now we're here and we're looking at it. I'm thinking, how is it even possible that this is Stonewall, who was such a force for good, such a force for good. Well, look where they are.
Look what got sent to me wonderfully. I got this during the week with our old friend and friend of the show, Fred Sargent, who's given a foreword to it. Now, if you can cancel a man who is at Stonewall and call him one of the wrong kind of gays and have him banned from Twitter and all the rest of the things they've done to him, and the worst of all, at a time when he should be enjoying his retirement. I know that he's not Fred's not doing great health wise at the moment.
Not in the best of health,
yeah. But at a time when he's kind of not in the best of health, it should be his retirement. He is fighting to stop people like Stonewall misrepresenting the truth of what happened there. Of casting someone like her name's jumped out of my head. First brick.
Marsha P. Johnson.
Yeah, like to build up someone like Marsha P. Johnson, who was a, in kind of like, mentally ill person who was on the fringes of what was going on at the time.
Yeah, fringy, kooky, cross-dressing.
Yeah, and to bring down the contribution of the black lesbian who said, why don't you guys do something, and as far as many people are concerned, kicked off the riots. It's been disgraceful. And to see Google doing it as well by having their little Google drawing of Marsha P. Johnson, and it's
there's a statue of Marsha P. Johnson somewhere in New York, and it's like I don't think Marsha P. Johnson was a particularly bad person, but wasn't a particularly notable person either. This is just somebody who everybody's trying to hold up as a figure of trans magic, even though this person insisted they weren't trans.
It's what they do with intersex people. They use intersex people to pretend that there is a medical basis to what they're saying when there is no medical basis to what they're saying. Sorry,
but
Helen,
speaking of statues, so they're mounting statues of
absolutely.
Random people. In Toronto, in the middle of the gay village, there was a statue of a man named Alexander Wood. The gay village in Toronto is around a street called Alexander Street and a street called Wood Street because it used to be an acreage that was owned by a man named Alexander Wood. He happened to be a very posh, effete homosexual who was like kind of a dandy sort of character, and he even had Oscar Wilde travel over to visit Toronto to hang out with him and stuff like that. He was a very posh, and so this flamboyant out gay man in the 19th century happened to own the land, which is now the gay village. So they erected a statue to him. But there's been some controversies over in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. There were all of these organizations that were doing bad things to Indigenous children, putting them in boarding schools and things like that. He wasn't actively involved in any of that, but he was like on the board of some organization that had. He was like 2 degrees of separation from that. Right. The second somebody mounted a complaint, somebody did a tweet or something, the gay rights community organization, overnight the statue was gone and smashed to pieces and replaced with just concrete as if it was never there. It was just vanished from existence. So gay people can't have statues of our gay rights heroes unless people think they're really trans, essentially.
But
they're just literally. That's quite sinister.
It's so sinister, and it's like it vanished overnight. No notice made, no announcement made, no plaque saying there used to be a statue to the first out gay person who made Toronto a gay haven, and was a legacy in the village. Just everything gone. It's like it never happened. The statue just was unpersoned, like a Stalin kind of situation.
Well, this whole thing is such a determined attempt to get straight people, to plant straight people into gay culture. Because I presume that Marsha was a homosexual transsexual.
Yeah, Marsha was a gay man. Yeah,
absolutely. So,
and he wasn't a transsexual at all. He wasn't trans. He never went by female pronouns. Never insisted he was a woman. Rejected the label trans. He just was a cross-dresser. He was, he preferred something like drag queen. Yeah. He did wear women's clothes, and I think he turned tricks in alleyways while wearing women's clothes and things like that. He was a sort of a very street involved, character in New York in the 70s and 80s.
I do hope that more and more gay people. It seems to me that women got very angry about this quite early on, quite a long time ago, and it took a long time for other women to start to see it, and now they really are. And I think the gay guys came along much later on, but it's ramping up because you can't help but see it now. Now, some are coming down on one side or the other. Well, not this side, but I do see that there's more and more anger over what's happening. Because we're raising awareness, and people are seeing, and people are thinking, it's so many people independently coming to the same conclusion. There's something rotten in Denmark. Something's up here.
Yeah. You know what it feels like? It feels like springtime. Now, there's a strange statistic that people experience more depression in springtime than they do in winter, because there's something about when things start to thaw and things start to get a little bit better. That's when you almost realize how bad it had been.
Yeah, and you know what?
Right now, I'm going through this because here in Toronto, it's snowing today. It's almost May.
That's a brilliant image.
I can handle winter in the middle of winter, but when it's almost over and it's still going, but you can taste summer, that's when you can't stand it. And that's what's going on. We're in this phase where 2 years ago, it was so bad what was going on with gender ideology, and no one believed us and no one listened to us, but at least there was this pressure that it was so crazy. Now we can almost taste sanity again, and it's almost harder on my mental health. It's almost harder to see that, oh God, can you believe how crazy this is now that everybody's waking up to it? It's almost a new kind of burden. The spring.
That's fair actually. I feel it a little too.
Yeah. I mean, I asked people today to send me their most unbelievable stories from this thing, because I'm writing something at the moment, and I wanted to write about one of the main problems we have, which is that people don't believe us, that this is all happening. You know, the one I used as an example, which some people know about, some people don't, was Princess Mom, right? Which is really like something from one of my sitcoms, because Princess Mom was a kind of birth, a guy who fetishized pregnancy and birth, who nearly managed to convince a Facebook group of trans-inclusive feminists to assist him in recreating a birth, up to and including being offered the use of a 5-month-old baby for the purpose, right? Now, that is like sitcom standard comedy. The idea that all these women were going along with it for a while, they all chickened out at the last moment. They all realized.
It sounds like it's like an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode.
Exactly. It's like people don't believe it. Genevieve Gluck sent me some.
The gang pretends to be pregnant.
Genevieve Gluck sent me some. A convicted child sex offender is performing community outreach for an organization that advises incarcerated men on how to declare a transgender status and legally change their identification. A trans-identified male who creates VR pornography and has posted rape fantasies to his social media is involved in producing style guides which advise media organizations on appropriate language for reporting on issues related to gender identity. A prominent psychologist within the gender identity at Tavistock has called for normalizing age play, furry fetishes, and a variety of sadomasochistic sexual practices as sexualities. A convicted male sex abuser who now identifies as a woman has filed a lawsuit claiming that being listed on the Wisconsin State Sex Offender Registry is a form of cruel and unusual punishment that violates his Eighth Amendment rights and prohibits him from exercising his right to self-expression as being a female. And finally, a top Canadian hospital affiliated with the University of Toronto partnered with a transgender BDSM fetishist to advise on gender inclusivity and create training videos for staff, which were subsidized by taxpayers. Like, that's what I mean when I say this is such a huge scandal that I don't think people can kind of...
I don't believe it. I can't even grasp it. I mean, that is a massive problem that you've got there, Graham. Yeah. If you're writing these things, like, I've seen it and I don't even fucking believe it.
Yeah.
You know, it's the old saying: one BDSM crossdresser is a tragedy. A million BDSM crossdressers is a statistic.
Yes, that's it exactly. You know.
Yes.
It's very disturbing, but it's the problem we've always had. People just don't believe us.
Yes, I know. And that's why when people do finally see it, when people see it happening, that's why they then go on to the but there's fault on both sides. You know, I mean, I agree with them, but they've been saying this, or but the TERFs are, you know, it's their attitude or whatever, simply because they can't believe that people would just be vilifying people for simply talking about what we've been talking about, and they think that there must have been something else going on here, because this is obvious. This is obviously wrong. They shout.
That's very true. That's very true.
I mean, did you see today? I just saw on Twitter that somebody tweeting a review of a new book. I think it's in America. I think it's an American book for teenagers, where they were for prepubescent kids, for talking about bodies, talking about going through puberty.
Yeah.
And they actually, you know, they wanted to bring everyone in, you know, sort of be truthful, be inclusive. And one of the lines is, transgender girls, they might not get their period. And you're like, might not.
Might.
Why are you lying? This is normalization. This is, I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing.
But can I also tell
they're
you,
lying. They're lying to
Helen,
these
do you know what they're
kids.
also doing? They're deliberate. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to burrow into one little aspect of that as well. When people hear transgender girls, half the audience is imagining men like we are, and half the audience is imagining trans men, women. Mm-hmm. So when they hear they think they're giving advice to young women who have transitioned and might not be getting their periods because of the use of testosterone.
They know what they're doing. These know what these people have written this book. They know who they're talking to. They're just lying. They're lying.
True. You may not get your periods, giving you this false hope. Exactly right.
Yes, and they're normalizing the idea that you can simply just be trans, and it's okay. You might not get your period, but in all other aspects, you be a woman. And when it's such a traumatic process for the rest of your life to continue down this path. It's something that requires constant upkeep, constant intervention.
Yeah.
And and then as so many people have always said, it narrows your dating pool. We know that if you start on puberty blockers and then go on to cross-sex hormones, you're going to be sterile. Why are they lying? Why are people going along and normalizing this? There are no trans children.
There was an interesting thing I saw today. Someone tweeted something. I'm just going to see if I can find it. Hold on a second. Someone tweeted something about a guy who was he was an MP accused of child sexual abuse, who has now been convicted, and he was on a government panel advising on grooming gangs and child sexual exploitation. And Sonia Sodha tweeted it and said, "Good Lord, what was an MP accused of child sexual abuse doing on this group?" It's like, well, that's what groomers do. That's exactly the kind of organization that groomers like to infiltrate.
Absolutely.
And similar people have infiltrated thousands of organizations around, including safeguarding operations. Including places that depend on safeguarding, like the girl guiding. The advice given to girl guiding was an absolute pedophile's dream ticket. Wait, again, I always, it's another unbelievable thing that you have to remind people of. But basically, girl guiding's safeguarding rules were pretty robust. Were very robust until a man said he was a woman.
Yeah,
when they just disappeared.
Same thing happened with an organization I worked at. There was a day camp program, summer day camp program for girls. It was strictly for girls. I don't want to detail it too much because I don't want to out the specific thing. And I ran this venue at the time. And I have this 15-page document about the importance of no men ever going near this building while these girls were in it, because it was going to be all these young girls. So I couldn't be in the building without an escort from 2 women. We couldn't get beer deliveries. We couldn't get, repairmen coming in. We couldn't get mail deliveries. No men whatsoever in this building. There shall be no men in this building. This is utterly important for insurance purposes. Well, of course, the second an autogynephile with mental health issues hears that there's a space that is strictly for women only, they'll be like, validation opportunity. And you can also wonder if it's a space where there's little girls around, maybe there's something going on there too. So I walk into the building with my 2 female escorts, and one of the 5 adult women who's managing these kids is a burly middle-aged man with long hair and ridiculous blouse and a skirt. And I'm just I literally am spending my entire summer trying to keep men away from this building, but this guy just waltzes in, this burly middle-aged man, and he's surrounded, and he's alone in rooms with 4 and 5 and 6-year-old girls, and everybody's like, "Well, I don't see the problem here." That's the one.
Wow. I mean, we will look this. We will look. It's interesting what you were saying about the thaw, because I think that's what Helen's. I think. But I think that's also happening with Elon Musk and Twitter. I think the thaw is going to come to Twitter as well. And when the ice melts, there's going to be a lot of awkward conversations and things that are going to be cleared up. I'm certainly looking forward to getting into conversations with some of my old friends.
I can't believe you're looking forward to going back to Twitter. I'm happy to. I'm just really need a long break from Twitter.
Well, no, I'll tell you one reason why I'm happy to go back, because I found out today, and this is I think this counts as news, but I'm being shadow banned by Substack. When you Google my website on their list of Substacks, mine doesn't come up.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
It's not weird. This is. I mean, you're telling me, and I completely believe this. Yeah. This is we've seen it so much, haven't we? We've seen it everywhere.
But it's kind of significant because Substack has sold itself as being the free speech platform. So this is very weird. This is I think I might even be in a group of one. I'm not sure. So I've been sending complaints, but they haven't got back to me about it properly yet. They haven't explained what's going on. But yeah, there was something else I was going to say there about what we were talking about. Yeah, just going back to the safeguarding thing. Of course, we've got a brilliant guest coming up in a few minutes, Stephanie Davies-Arai, who's just had so much success with the fantastic news that there's going to be an investigation into the Tavistock. That's going to be, again, like ice melting and prehistoric.
Yes, I'm looking forward to talking to Stephanie about this. I think the amount of work she's put in. Well, let's leave that until she's arrived. But I did want to say something about this Twitter thing. I am a tiny bit worried that about the free speech thing. I do believe. I mean, I'm hoping that Elon Musk will not just say, disband all the rules because it'll make it a place where women are absolutely not welcome. Because if you're allowed to say anything, only the strong and the powerful will stay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I really, I'm quite concerned about it. I think on the whole, apart from sort of gender critical corner, I think Twitter doesn't do a terrible job, of moderating. However, they need a much more diverse trust and safety council, because if you look at them, none of them are sort of gender critical, none of them feminists, they're all woke, and so this is who's advising them.
Oh,
and
no.
They need, that's how it's been up until now. But I'm hoping that I'm hoping that Musk will be like, okay, well, maybe what we need is more diverse representation here. Well, if you're listening, I'm sure you are, then do that. But also more than that, I think they could really, like, the bar for permanent banning, I've said this so many times, should be extraordinarily high. We should not be sitting there sort of on a hair trigger thinking anything I say at any moment could get me permanently banned forever.
Right.
They could, they should do a lot more, sort of 1 month out, 3 months out, even 6 months out. But
if you're
not
really bad,
a full, but not an absolutely full ban. I am a little bit concerned about what might happen because it is a space where women are able to talk to each other unless you say, unless you're gender critical, in which case you're constantly on a knife edge about to be banned. But if there's too much freedom, then it'll make it a very unwelcome space for women.
That's right, because anybody we saw this bouncing around both ways in the early days of social media, where they were all kind of super libertarian. They were all naming their kids Ayn Rand and shit. They were obsessed with free speech. What do you call it? Free speech absolutism at first, a lot of these organizations, and they realized that didn't work because trolls and racists and misogynists were harassing women, harassing minorities, harassing gays and lesbians, but mostly women. They had to put a stop to that, and they had to put a stop to things. There have to be limits. I also agree that, like, I'm not a free speech absolutist at all, because I think that can be exploited by bad actors, by people who just repeat things like that are false to get ahead. Holocaust denialism needs to be stopped. Climate change denialism, now that we know that climate change is real, you can just lie if there's, and you can get into spaces where you shouldn't be gotten into, like universities. I think platforms do have responsibilities to moderate their content. I think that's absolutely true. I think the question is how we do it. So I think you're right. In a lot of ways, Twitter has done an adequate job moderating their content. It's better than their old school days of free speech absolutism, but they're so biased with their own Silicon Valley worldview, and it's so narrow.
It's the
that's
bias.
The problem.
It's the bias that's a massive problem.
But Musk has said that he will observe laws of each individual country. So we have the Equality Act. So people can't.
But
and that goes to the House of Lords, because the House of Lords. I think you both testified at the House of Lords, right, about moderation and content and censorship in the internet. I think that's a great way to do it. If your nation wants to have your cultural values imposed, you should do that, obviously with an eye to as much free speech as possible. I don't want China to be clamping down on things.
Guys, listen, I've just heard this. Alison Bailey's crowdfunder is down.
What?
A warning comes up saying it's an unreliable website. I don't know if people want to check that, but
didn't they pull Alison's crowdfunder down ages ago, and then she moved it, to a different platform? I thought it was.
I don't know. I think crowdfunder. I have to say, but basically, this looks to me like an attempt to make her situation even worse. Make the stress on her even worse. I think.
Yeah, but I'll bet if you shut down this little website that's hosting your crowdfunder, you can report it as unsafe. You can mass report it.
Yeah. I bet it's something like that. So I hope that she hangs in there and realizes that they're just trying to demoralize her.
The tactics of the villains, the tactics of the bad guys here.
Yeah. And I hope that the press, please, everyone who's watching this, get this to the press and get this to people like, the usual, all those idiots, Jeremy Vine and all those pricks who don't know how to cover this issue, and get them and ask them, show them what's happening, show them the kind of treatment that lesbians get from Stonewall and their allies on Lesbian fucking Visibility Week. It's absolutely outrageous. Sorry, listen, Stephanie is here. I'm going to bring her in.
Excellent. Yes, please do.
Yes. Hi, Stephanie. How's it going? Oh, now you're muted, Stephanie. You have to turn on the thing. There you go. Hello there. How's it going?
Stephanie.
Hi.
It's lovely to see you.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Listen, first of all, obviously today is a bit of a nervous day for us all, but we really must congratulate you for the incredible work you've done to get us this far. I mean, did you know this announcement by Javid was coming?
No. I heard it on Friday night, and I did cry. Well, my tweet wasn't a lie, and I did drink. Yeah, I did drink quite a bit of wine. I didn't know
what else to do.
And it was quite late, and I couldn't go to bed. It's what I've been campaigning for 7 years.
A decade. Yes.
Yeah. So
you've put your heart and soul into it. Just you sort of slogging away, constantly, and having been vilified so badly for it.
Let's give it.
Oh yes, background.
Let's give it.
You're right.
No. I was going to come off your question, Helen. I was going to say, Stephanie, let's maybe we should delay this because. Can you explain for people who might be new to this debate what you stand for in this and what you're trying to expose?
Well, right from the start, it was about the standards of care for children who were confused about their gender, how things have changed, and it's become a politicized subject. Well, children have become politicized, so they're now not children with gender dysphoria as we used to understand them, with varying outcomes. So they're treated as children who are developing, and the outcome might be transsexual, but in fact it's the least likely outcome. Much more likely is that they're going to be lesbian and gay as adults. And that has changed to, we now describe these children as transgender children. So we've made them into adults. When we say transgender child, everybody picks up on the word transgender and forgets the word child. And we don't have the right to put these adult labels onto children who cannot understand what those transgender itself as a word has no biological, scientific, or legal meaning.
We're here the same definition,
right?
It encompasses anything from a middle-aged man with a fetish for dressing in women's clothes, to a troubled autistic lesbian teenage girl, to a 4-year-old boy who loves princesses. And so it covers, and those people cannot be grouped together and treated in the same way. And yet we've seen it's the adult activists who have been dictating the treatment for children. So no middle-aged man with a history of cross-dressing, who didn't experience gender dysphoria in childhood typically, it has no right to talk about how children should be treated in gender clinics, has no idea what teenage girls who are 70% who are being referred to the Tavistock should be treated, and what the issues are for those girls. So the whole thing has become politicized, and we've forgotten somehow these children are placed with that term transgender outside normal child safeguarding, outside normal child development. They're seen as this magical group of children who know who they are, who know their authentic self. I mean, do any of us have an authentic self? I sometimes surprise myself because I think I'm one person and then I find out I'm a different person. It's ludicrous. The whole ideology that's based on is ludicrous.
And the stakes are so high.
We had some research and evidence on the group of predominantly male prepubertal children and their outcomes. And we are using the same protocols for a completely different cohort, which is adolescents, mostly teenage girls, puberty blockers in the medical pathway and affirmation. We're using it all, the most sort of extreme approach, which was not designed for this group, that we know virtually nothing about apart from Lisa Lippman's study and a couple of detransition studies. We really don't know enough about this group. This, 48 autistic kids.
And of course, there's so little research because of the chilling effect on scientists, like people like Michael Bailey and other scientists who've tried to look into this. But I remember once someone was asking for, someone was doing some sort of, what was that one? It was one the person got fired from Bath University for, or something like this.
James Caspian had his study.
Yes, what was James Caspian's study again?
On detransitioners.
On detransitioners, and they actually banned it. So whenever there is some kind of real study being done, they try and destroy it.
Yeah, so look what happened to Lisa Lippman.
Lisa Lippman, yes, sorry.
They tried to suppress any study that would help us understand this group.
Yeah. So
you've been gathering a lot of scientific data at Transgender Trend, haven't you?
Well, that was the point of the website to start with, to gather all of the robust evidence. Not all of there's so much that doesn't really prove what it says it proves.
That's right, yeah.
Which is really written by activists. So yeah, I wanted to put together in one place a resource for parents who wanted to access proper research and evidence when they were searching for information online, with their, for children who were suddenly identifying as transgender. So yes, I spent, I suppose, a couple of years before setting up the website, just collecting as much evidence and studies as I could.
I know that when I started getting into this, that was by far my favorite resource. I made so much use of Transgender Trend. It really, really helped me to find the evidence base that I needed to make arguments that I was making on YouTube. I made a video where I referred
it has been an amazing resource, and then you created the schools pack as well, didn't you? Which I think was.
I think the evidence, the research and evidence, is not on the sites like Stonewall and Gendered Intelligence and Mermaids, and the issue here is that if you're providing a service based on ideology, you don't need evidence. I think that came through really clearly with the CAS interim report. You don't need data, you don't need evidence, you need faith. An ideology, a belief in gender identity and a gendered soul, and it's a faith. So evidence is not necessary.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Someone actually did that the other day to someone who was saying, I don't have a gender identity, and this person said, you may think you don't, but you do, which is exactly the same argument that atheists used to be presented with when people would say, well, you may not believe in God, but what was they used to? Oh yeah, no, if you don't believe in God, that's a belief. It's that kind of bullshit kind of reverse psychology that doesn't really work on us, because we're always kind of believing in the rational stuff we know about. And what's interesting as well, and I think a really good sign of what you're saying is true, what you're saying about activists is true. Like one, I won't say their name, but a particularly abusive troll on Twitter who identifies as a woman, like, was presented with the name Michael Bell the other day. Now, this is someone who's encouraging people to get their children transitioned, right? So that they don't go through puberty, because I went through puberty, it was terrible, and I wish I hadn't, blah, 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 blah. Now, this person is advising parents and onlookers as to the truth of this. And they didn't know who Michael Bell was. You know? So to have like a kind of all these professed experts, and they don't know the basics of the debate, you know?
Do you mean David Bell?
David Bell. Oh, shit. There we go.
I was going to say, I don't know who Michael Bell is.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I was thinking, does he mean Michael Bailey?
Oh,
David Bell?
yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's because I was talking about Michael Bailey earlier, but David Bell, yes. Like, they don't know. They talk, like Owen Jones is talking about medical experts. 31 doctors left at Tavistock. 31. You know, so it's just kind of bizarre to me that you have all these people and they're speaking for such authority, and they're running on fumes. You know, they have nothing going for them, and they've come so far. You do actually have to give them some credit. They really have come a long way on nothing. You know.
Yes.
Sorry. Anyway,
extraordinary. But I wanted to ask about your schools pack. I think that was an amazing resource for schools.
Yeah, well, yeah, that came out in February 2018, and it was that was the resource that when I started Transgender Trend, I knew there was a demand for that, and I knew that was a real priority to get that out, to counter the trans inclusion toolkits that were going into schools, and I just felt. And then we crowdfunded to get it printed, to make printed copies. And I love books. I love real books, you know, real objects in the real world. And I knew that if it's one thing to go and complain to your school and say, I don't like this resource you're using. But if you've got an alternative to say, here, read this one, it makes your case so much stronger. It's very powerful to have a real booklet to take into the school, and I knew that would make a real difference. Yeah. So it's a real priority of mine to get that out, and I worked with a fantastic teacher on it and a safeguarding lead. Check everything was and 2 lawyers. Right. So everything was absolutely correct.
It's
great.
You've put in so much effort. So much behind the scenes effort on this. I genuinely don't think a lot of people are not aware of how much work you have put in. You've put your life into this over the last few years, haven't you? More than a few years.
Yeah.
But 6 or 7 years.
And a lot of my work is behind the scenes, and it, you know, as it is now, even more actually, because now I'm being listened to and taken seriously.
Yeah,
so
and it's been a long time.
A lot of it is hidden work, but it's still, you know, I feel like there's a massive shift, and the tanker is being turned around, but there's still a lot of work to do to undo the damage. And so the, you know, it carries on, but I do feel that actually with the CAS interim report, there's nothing else we need to look at. There's no other voice we need to listen to. And the big thing about Sajid Javid's announcement was absolutely massive relief that he has clearly read the CAS interim report. All the information is there. It's the only voice to listen to. She's the professional. Whenever you get an objective view on this issue, the results are the same. So the National Institute of Care Excellence, their reports, the analysis by Carl Hennigan of all of the treatments. Every time somebody comes in who's independent and objective, and the results are the same. This is a scandal. This is these children are not receiving the proper duty of care.
That's right. That's such an important point to make, that it's unanimous when the adults, as Graham always says, when the grown-ups enter the room, we see what's going on. But Stephanie, what I admire is you've been doing this diligently, working hard, and you've maintained such a sort of steady image, which a lot of us, we lose our minds, we're just going crazy. We scream, we shout, we snap, we have meltdowns, and you just seem to be very steadily just pushing ahead, introducing a scientific dialogue into what is essentially a giant art project, which is what queer theory is. It's a giant art project. It's horrible. It's,
You're right. You're so right.
It's just an art project by, idiots. But you've just been steadily plodding along, doing the diligent work, maintaining your cool over this long course of time. It's very hard for people to imagine these long projects where the payoff doesn't happen for years. And here you are. How do you feel now compared to 7 years ago when you started? You must be very, very keenly aware of the change of the tenor.
Yeah. Well, when I started, I knew that I couldn't sort of come in all guns blazing, screaming child abuse. At that time, and Helen and I go back a long way, don't we, Helen?
You certainly do.
Nobody was speaking out, although, some feminists and some particularly lesbian feminists were and had been for years. But on the issue of children and child transition, there wasn't any speaking out from professionals or any parenting websites or anything like that. It was radio silence on this massively new subject, transgender children. And so I knew that, it's partly my personality. I do believe in sort of winning on facts and evidence, but it doesn't mean that I don't get upset. And I think anger was the driving force. And when I read through the CAS interim report, I was so upset, so angry. And yet I know all this stuff, but it still hits me now. I read through the Care Quality Commission report. I read through the NICE reports. I read through Carl Haggett. I've read all this stuff. I know what has been happening at the Tavistock.
But it must have been upsetting because you've known about it for such a long time, and so many children have gone through this process in the meantime, whilst you've been saying there's a problem here, and yet it's been carrying on. It is finally happening, but I can completely understand that the absolute massive frustration.
And part of what, when I said I cried when I heard this, it was partly relief, but also it was anger and distress, knowing the young people like Kira Bell, like Sinead Watson, like the young women who have been through this medical pathway, and the parents and the families that have been destroyed by this. And these are the families that I worked with. I was on I spent a lot of time on the phone to parents when I started Transgender Trend, because it was the only place they could go and really talk and be honest about how they were feeling about it, because they were called bigots if they didn't affirm their child, even back then in 2015. So and it's incredibly distressing how this has impacted on families. And, I've got such respect for the parents who are struggling and dealing with this, who can't speak up publicly. They have to protect their relationship with their children. They're walking a very fine line in supporting their child without concretizing their identities or it's an incredibly difficult job, and they don't get any support. And they don't get any support from the health service, from the counselling professions, or even, they haven't from the government or public spokespersons. That's gradually increased over the years. And now, thankfully, there are so many people speaking out. But hopefully parents feel much more supported.
Yeah, and the other thing I was I'd like to ask, what your laying out is obviously hugely compassionate, completely correct. You're calling for evidence, and you're obviously concerned about the fate of these kids and these families. What has been done to you over the last 7 years to stop you from doing this work?
Wow.
What hasn't been done? I think the my biggest, well, I think I am public enemy number one to a few groups. Stonewall has certainly tried. I mean, they put out a statement calling the school's guidance deeply damaging. The number of times, it was completely unsubstantiated defamation. The number of times that Stonewall statement, still on the website, has been used by other people to prove that I'm an anti-trans hate group is amazing. I mean, it's in a pamphlet produced by the Tate Gallery. It's everywhere.
What? Wow.
Yeah, and it was a project done by
art project. There you go.
Art project done by gender.
Modern Art Gallery wants to get involved in this giant art project of mutilated children. Imagine that.
They also emailed around schools and told them not to use the transgender trend guidance. And there's been various things that have come up online, sort of head teachers association saying Stonewall say this, don't use this. This is anti-trans. So they've really done their best to silence me. And to me, that shows that, I mean, anybody who refuses to debate an issue that affects children's lives is suspect.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is just, to me, proof that they're not, they're not qualified to be working with children if they try to silence any debate.
Oh yeah, I hope that there's some jail terms at the end of this. I think some people like Helen Weberly. I don't know what's going to happen to her after what she was found guilty of 38. Oh, by the way, I saw that spun as a victory by some people, including some.
Well, they did say that she was at the forefront, the vanguard of trans healthcare.
Yeah. Who said that again?
That was quite extraordinary. That was the panel, I believe, the judge.
What did you make of that, Stephanie? What did you make of that result, Stephanie?
Well, it was, to me, it just looked, well, that's ideology over clinical care and evidence. That is such a clear example of how the ideology works, that we have a faith here, and here we have somebody who's practicing the faith, and we support her. So I mean, it's one of the worrying things, how the legal profession, you never know what judge you're going to get, how much they have been, how much they've imbibed this ideology.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, well, I guess that's it for me. I mean, I just wanted to have you on to thank you, really. I mean, I think we all want to thank you. We owe you such a debt of gratitude. Like I mean, honestly, the society owes you a massive debt of gratitude here, Stephanie, for doggedly just carrying on in the face of such abuse.
They do very boring work, Helen.
Well, when you're played by Meryl Streep in the movie, they'll make it look very glamorous. Well, what's next for you? Do you have any big projects on the go?
Yes, we're about to bring out a huge report on autism, which we've been working on for years. We've got a parent guide in the works. We've got other publications coming out that I really want to get out. So yeah, and various. Well, I do hope I hope Javid actually comes to you, because I mean, you've got such a lot of experience here. I think you could offer a lot. Lots of people have been saying this in response to him. Maybe he'd be like, yeah, all right then.
Yes. No, I'm sure. Like it's to me, it feels like they're really plugged in on this. They know exactly how to navigate it. They've been briefed extremely well, They know that the arguments they're presenting have no real comeback. They can't be beaten, these arguments. So I think we're in good hands in terms of this particular issue with the Conservatives. I mean, we see in I believe there's a big anti-abortion bill just passed in America at the moment, a very bad one. And so we can never quite trust the right on women's rights, but fair play to them. They have really grasped the nettle here, and it's wonderful that something might actually be done. I think there's going to be a lot of embarrassed people at the end of this, and you won't be one of them, Stephanie. So please do have another night of drunken debauchery.
I do think what is really important though is that we never again take our foot off the brake.
No, I think you mean eye off the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, well, whatever, however you want to put it, but I do think it's really important that we keep an eye, that we don't just say, I think the tanker is slowly turning. We really do need to carry on turning it.
Let me ask one question that Jen, our producer, asked earlier. She wants to know whether you're seeing anything positive from the left, Stephanie. We'll ask that and then leave it at that.
I think there are. I mean, the movement in the UK comes mostly from the left, for women's rights and on this issue, but it's not a party political issue, and one of the reasons that I feel that we've got for hope is if this government is replaced with a Labour government, they still cannot ignore the Cass interim report and the final results of the review, which I think will be stronger. And very clear, but it's clear enough already just in the interim report. The NHS can't ignore that. NHS commissioned. No government, or future health minister can ignore Cass. So I think that is, what's great is that is outside politics.
Yes. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
So that's my reason for thinking, well, whatever happens politically, I think that secures the direction we're traveling in.
And it's very much thanks to you as well, Stephanie. Thank you again so much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Come back on anytime. Bye-bye, Stephanie.
Bye. What an amazing woman. What an amazing.
Finally, we've had her on. I think we wanted to have her on the show since the very beginning, and there was just scheduling and stuff. So
have we not had Stephanie? Oh well, I may have spoken to Stephanie one-on-one in the past.
Oh, I think you did a one-on-one.
That's
separate.
Well, So I think basically this image of spring coming and thawing, and I mean, I will see you all on Twitter very soon, hopefully. I don't know. I mean, I think it would.
Honestly, I think you will. I think you'll be back.
I think it would be very funny, wouldn't it, if they said we're going to go for free speech, but don't worry, we're not letting the Nazis or the TERFs back on. But
we're going to enforce pronouns.
Yeah. I have a temporary Twitter account that I've kind of got at the moment, and I'm going to share it with you people at some point so that you can all follow me. In fact, should I put it in here?
No.
Yes.
Wait a bit.
Yes. It'll be no. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Oh, like an angel and a demon. Wait.
You should be on the bottom and we're the two on the top.
Let me do it. Hold on a sec. I'll tell you my trend. Now the thing is, the people who are watching this, they're going to be hold on a second. They're going to be the account is locked, but I will accept people who kind of come soon to how do I'm just trying to find my own bloody username.
Just tell us what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to find it. I forget it.
I can't remember what you called yourself.
Yeah, it's Graham Linehan 7. Okay, which is
7.
I know 7
because the other 6 got destroyed.
The other 6 are I think in fact I might have taken one of the other 6 by mistake and then started another one, so they called it Graham Linehan 7. Okay, I found it. Here you go. So this is Graham Linehan 7. Yeah. So there you go, folks. Follow me on there, and I will follow you back and all that business. And
brilliant.
Then when I get my real account back, I'll pretend I never knew any of you.
Don't give them any ideas, Dennis. Dennis in the comments.
Thank you very much, everyone. Lovely to see you all.
Oh wait, before we go, already?
Oh wait, yeah.
Well, I guess I don't really have anything more to say, except
Oh.
did you notice that? I just don't want it to end. No, but did you notice that Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead is turfing it up? I thought that was really cool. I kind of saw that coming. You know, Aaron, American Aaron, trans man from the Pacific Northwest. He's a Radiohead fan. I'm a big Radiohead fan, and he's always pointed out that a lot of the lyrics to the more recent Radiohead songs sound like they're very, you know, like there's a song about burning witches and people ganging up on women and stuff, and it's just like, oh, this sounds like it's like codedly turfy, you know.
I called them smoke signals.
Signals, yeah. So
a few of them.
Yeah, I think Tom York has been singing about this issue in a coded kind of way, and to see Johnny Greenwood coming out and liking some tweets.
Suzanne Moore.
Yeah,
it's very good. It's very good.
Yeah. Superb.
No,
one at a time.
One at a time, yeah. And you can't rush a peak. Everybody has to peak on their own time in their own fucking way. But I think it's getting fast. I think the process is getting faster and faster, you know.
Well, Johnny Greenwood's uncancelable. This is a man with Oscars and a man in probably the most influential band since, you know, I don't even know, in the last 25 years. He's uncancelable. And if he's stepping out and doing this, nobody, you know. He's the rock world's version of J.K. Rowling, you know. So
I'm still trying to get people to you know, to say something, to gather together, but my God, it's impossible. It's impossible. No one cares. It's crazy. But we'll see what happens over the next few weeks when some of these things come through. Cast report, Alison Bailey. Get well soon, Alison.
Yes.
And listen, I was annoyed now because apparently that thing was just not true at all. The thing about the crowdfunder. It was just someone I think who had some sort of thing up that was telling them it was a spammy site. It's probably been mass reported, and some sites are saying that it's not trustworthy. I'd say that's probably more what's happening. But the crowdfunder is doing very well and is like, I think, like 50,000 over what they need. So
excellent.
Yes.
Well, I hope that she's able to get back on it tomorrow. I hope that she's okay.
Yeah. God bless you, Alison. Get well soon. Don't let them do you down. The punishment is the process. Don't forget that. Or the process is the punishment. I mean, don't forget that. Don't let them win. Stay strong. Take whatever drugs they're giving you and fucking get back on that. Get back in there. You're gonna win. You're gonna win, no doubt about it. You're on the right side of history, 100%. All right. Goodbye, everyone. See you next.